Welcome back, everybody, to the coverage for the Bushiroad Championship Series World Finals 2022 here at the LA Convention Center. Of course, we got to throw out that quick reminder for you guys to get on that Card Fight Vanguard Dear Days original sleeves contest, where you can design your own sleeves to potentially be in the game and distributed to all players. And that is ongoing, so you have until February 26th to get a handle on that. So go ahead and submit your designs, and hopefully your sleeves could be in Card Fight Vanguard Dear Days. Now, we're getting into round 6, the last round of Swiss, and we have a pretty exciting match between two pretty well-known players. So both of them are going to be playing 7 Deadly Sins today, but they're going to be playing 2 pretty different builds. One of them is one that we have seen earlier today, which is going to be that Escanor-based build, but the other one is a build that is pretty much the only one of its kind at this event, if I'm not mistaken. And so for those 2 players, we have, of course, Christian Yarbacher from Austria, and he is going to be rocking the 6-2 build with Escanor that we have been seeing throughout the day. Unlike the ones that we saw earlier, instead of being a 4 Elizabeth Climax, 2 Meliodas Climax line, it's going to be the other way. It's going to be 2 Elizabeth and 4 Meliodas. And then on the other side, we have Simu Wang, so chairman for those of you who might be familiar with his screen name. And he's going to be representing a very unique build of SDS, running 6 Standby and 2 Choice Climax. So it's a variant that runs the level 2 or the level 3 Meliodas from the first set, but it's going to be utilizing Standby Climaxes to bring that game plan out much earlier than initially intended.
So it looks like they've fired off, and Simu is going first. He's clocked a level 0 Elaine Brainstorm. That's a pretty unusual card to see, I think, in any other build of 7 Deadly Sins. Yeah, I believe it brainstorms, except instead of paying 1 stock, it sends another character to the waiting room to brainstorm.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so playing this deck does require a bit of a unique mentality, because unlike other decks where you're using your stock in order to try to gain additional cards in hand, in this case, you are using cards to try to get more cards. And then you can use your stock in other very creative ways outside of that.
Yeah, and on top of that, I also believe that it has a combo with one of the standbys to salvage a 2-2 character, but is that combo better than I think it is, or is it just...
So it depends on the way you look at it. So obviously, when you are using a 2-2 in your hand, it is a lot more awkward than like using a Standby Climax to bring it out.
Yeah.
But that's a lot of 2-2s just kind of chilling there.
He's ready for level 1, I guess.
Yeah. Obviously, a 2-2 in hand isn't really doing very much good, but the way that the deck is designed is to run a lot of level 0s that can convert those 2-2s into other cards. So earlier today, we saw the Elaine level 0, which is also being run in this deck. That one is a double filter, being able to potentially get 2 copies of the 2-2 out of your hand and convert them into other cards. And we also have the Meliodas level 0 that has the on-play effect, where you can discard a card, reveal the top card of your deck, and then salvage a level X or lower character. So that's going to be on Simu's side. On Christian's side, we do have him out 5 climaxes already by the looks of it. We have one in waiting room, 1 in clock, 1 that was triggered, 2 more in hand. Where do we go from here? Meanwhile, Simu gets sent straight to level 1 with honestly a pretty suboptimal looking hand.
Yeah. We did say that Christian is out 5, but it's not like Simu can see the 2 in his hand very easily. And I guess you can expect that there's 1, because he did clock away one of the level 2, but comes out at level 1 climax combos. But I don't think Simu is really going to commit to a play which just pushes damage at the expense of card advantage at this point. So despite how it looks, I think Christian can sit back for at least 1 more turn before Simu starts pushing lots of damage.
So here we're seeing one of the new cards from 7 Deadly Sins Revival of the Commandments, which is the 1-0 Elaine. So she has 2 abilities. Both of them are both on play and on death. And so you can top check and either leave the top card on top of your deck or send it to the waiting room, and also pay 2 salvage. And so this can be used to great effect with the level 0 Elaine Brainstorm that we were just talking about, as you sacrifice a character for the cost, so it allows you to get a ton of value out of the Elaine, And it also gives you the perfect way to spend your stock. As we said earlier, with the Elaine Brainstorm not actually spending any of your stock, this Elaine makes the perfect card to utilize that stock and get some cards back.
Yeah. So as expected, yeah, Simu is not able to make like an incredibly soul aggressive turn this turn, which that's just how the deck operates. It's not really like a fault of anything. But he has got two soul beaters in the back, so it looks like he's pretty set in terms of damage output for the next few turns. And yep, Christian has hit level 1. Adds 2 cards to hand using the ability of the reversed Escanor. And I think he'll probably be ready to do his level 2 early play combo.
So the level 2 does have a couple pretty unique cards that are exclusive to work with it that we have not seen in any of the decks today, which I think is quite interesting.
Yeah.
They have some pretty powerful effects that allow you to gain some memory, turn the 2/1 Meliodas into a 2/0, give him extra power. But we're seeing some much more normal-looking builds, I would say.
But looks like he does have double Brainstorm, so he could actually play either Climax here and it'll make a lot of sense. But I'd say it looks like he's playing the level 2 combo right here. Yep, there it goes.
Yeah. So the level 2 combos says at the end of the at the start of the Encore step.
Yeah.
If you have a full board of 5, so what was the trait? Britannia characters.
Britannia, yeah.
Then you can sack the Climax to salvage 2, and here we are seeing another first attack Climax from Christian, and he shakes his head, and then Simu takes it, and then he shakes his head.
The nature of +2 soul triggers. Yep.
And Simu going straight to 2. Those Climaxes have to be somewhere. He's not out that many.
No, he's not. So I guess Simu just doesn't... He probably won't want to go through his deck too fast for this turn.
Yeah.
He can expect them to gain card advantage or cancels here, so he's kind of happy with just the two soul beaters in the back, and he should be doing fine.
So Christian's grabbing a level 0 Escanor for the late game and a level 1 Meliodas in order to have some stable board presence during this upcoming turn. So I hear what I think Sam's going to do. He's going to salvage the level 0 Meliodas. Oh, really? Okay. So the play that I was thinking that he would do is salvage the level 0 Meliodas, which can then salvage back the Brainstorm that he had to front row on this turn.
Yeah.
And then you could sack the Meliodas for the Brainstorm, and that opens up a slot for a potential standby Climax to come down. So Elaine, being able to sack your own board for the Brainstorm to empty slots on board for standby is pretty strong.
Yep.
But given the cards in his hand, he has a couple more 2/2s, a 1/0. Doesn't look like he has very good options for converting the 2/2s in his hand into other cards.
All right, so he has clocked the 2/2 away, so I guess that's one form of conversion. It's a Climax swap. Oh, all right. Straight
We're just
away.
going to see grabbing a standby here, I suppose. Going to start
Yep.
using those standbys to bring out the late game, which in this case is the 3/2 Meliodas. So it's a pretty unique. It's a pretty unique package that utilizes multiple cards. So the first one that we're probably going to be seeing here is the 3/2 Meliodas. Let's go ahead and see if we can get a look at that.
All right.
Setting it up, so it's definitely coming down. So
Yep.
3/2 Meliodas being an 11k healer, and then Climax combo with Choice to gain 1k power cross turn, and also an ability that activates when the opponent attacks, allowing you to burn them for 2.
Yeah. So this card does a bit more than what it actually says on the card, because I believe there's a 2/1 counter which gives this particular Meliodas -2 soul to the cards in front. Card in front, rather.
Yeah, so there are a couple cards that reference this that are very powerful. One of them is from the first set, which is the 2/1 Elizabeth, which gives all copies of that 3/2 Meliodas plus 1,000 power and hexproof and anti-burn during their battle, which can be very strong into certain matchups that rely on like on-attack burn, on-reverse burn, things like that. The other one is a new card from Revival of the Commandments, which is the Elizabeth counter. You can discard an additional Britannia character when you use the backup to choose one of your 3/2 Meliodas and give it -2 soul across, making it a very strong defensive option. And it's this particular suite of cards that is a big reason as to why Simu has chosen to bring this particular build of 7 Deadly Sins, as he felt it was a good counter pick. Interestingly, into the Escanor matchup, Escanor's text specifically says that when he splits his damage up into like 1-1-1-1-1, it does not count as damage inflicted by an auto ability. So it does not get stopped by the back row Elizabeth. However, you can still use the minus soul to reduce the damage output.
So would you say that puts Simu in an advantage of the matchup?
In my opinion, the main advantage for Simu in this matchup would come from the ability to maintain the board presence, and also the fact that he has to force Christian to lose a lot of board presence. As we can see, Christian's hand is not very full, right?
No, it's not.
And it's also not very sculpted. He has one Escanor level 3 and no Escanor level 0.
Yeah. Is that a choice that I see in his hand, or is that a stock soul?
It is a stock soul for the Elizabeth.
All right. So he has to also find the choice somehow.
Yeah. So in addition to needing to sculpt relatively hard to try to find his endgame pieces, you do also have to deal with the fact that you are basically sacking your entire board every single turn.
Yeah, pretty
And
much.
as we mentioned earlier, that does potentially become a problem if you are trying to fulfill the full board requirement for, I believe this one is a level 0 or lower stock soul, and the level 2 Meliodas climax is a yellow stock soul.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, so
I wasn't aware of that difference.
yeah, you have to deal with multiple different stock soul conditions in this particular deck.
All right.
Oh.
So that's one of the choices, which means that if he leaves it in there, he can relatively easily climax swap into it. Should he have a climax?
I don't think he wants that to be there.
Yeah, probably not. But
And we
you
are
know,
finally
it
seeing
options.
seeing those cancels come out for Simu.
Yeah. I mentioned earlier that the 2-1 Elizabeth that grants the anti-burn text to level 3 Meliodas doesn't really stop the damage from Escanor in this matchup. But the fact that it grants Meliodas the ability that it can't be targeted by other abilities, would you think that's pretty important against Escanor in that they can't bounce your Meliodas to try and turn off your minus soul?
Oh yeah, for sure. Being able to bounce those Meliodas is definitely a very strong option. For similar reasons that we saw in another matchup today where bouncing in the Mushoku matchup potentially prevented some rest counter use. It's kind of the same deal here. And so in that respect, as you said, the level 2 back row being able to give hexproof to those 3/2s is very powerful as well. And now we see Simu here with 2 cancels and maintaining an entire board. Doesn't have to clock. Potentially doesn't even have to use stock. Potentially. If he wants to
He might
maybe use a brainstorm or something like that, or maybe he just wants to sit on this deck and just attack 3 times. Either of these is a perfectly good option.
And even if he does want to brainstorm, he might not have to use stock if he has access to the Elaine brainstorm.
Yeah, which is the only brainstorm that he runs in this
Oh,
deck.
okay. So brilliant. So if he can get that, he actually doesn't need to pay stock for the rest of the game, just for deck compression at least.
Yeah.
Alright.
What he would like to see here is the 2-1, establishing the 3-2 first via standby, and then moving it up, and then putting a 2-1 behind
the
it.
2-1 from hand, would probably be ideal.
Yeah, that's definitely the big part of the game plan. Typically, what you would like to be doing after you've established one of each of those is trying to use extra standby climaxes to bring out more copies of the 3-2, and then it just gets bad. It just turns into an unbearable situation for your opponent because they're like, oh, I can't burn. They're gonna minus soul me. My board's dead.
And they might even draw into a choice, and now you have to worry about your opponent burning you on your turn. So
yeah, exactly. And judging by Simu's position, considering that he not only canceled 2 but also isn't clocking, he looks to potentially make quite a damage lead here.
Yep. So looks like the 3 going straight
Okay.
in. So due to the new refresh rule, I think the refresh penalty should go in just under those 3. and,
Yes.
that may or may not matter. I'm not sure. I believe if Christian's playing the Merlin early play, he might early play here, in which case it does matter. So we'll just watch him do that.
So we have a refresh with 6 here, and I believe the missing 2 were 1 stock soul from the previous turn and 1 choice from this turn.
Yep, that sounds right. And it looks like Simu's just making sure that everything is proceeded correctly. All right, so Simu looked like he was in a bit of a tight spot at the beginning, but seems to have flipped a bit.
Indeed, especially with these open lanes and being able to really assert high amounts of damage. Looks like because of how the anti-burn doesn't really come in super useful in this particular matchup, looks like he's just elected to go straight for more copies of the Meliodas, and oh my god.
Well, that's a big one. Yeah, so in this scenario, if Christian wants to go for the game, but I think it's a bit difficult based on his hand quality.
Not only because of the hand quality, but just based on Escanor kind of lacks the reach because he doesn't actually generate any additional
he
damage.
Just raises your bottom line.
Yeah,
that's true. And even if he wanted to go for Escanor, bouncing the Meliodas here to try and turn off a Minus Soul, in the case that doesn't end the game on that turn, Simu can just play it back down really comfortably.
And it's a heal.
Heal down. Yeah, heals down, might even combo, and he just continues his plan. So, yeah, that big swing of damage landing looked really sweet for Simu.
Okay, so Simu refreshing with what looks like 7, because he just triggered 1 standby to bring up the 3-2.
So, yeah.
And so with those 2 choice climaxes going back into the deck, those are potential draws that we could see coming up here. And the Elaine Brainstorm gives you additional ways to try to get into that climax, as the Brainstorm effect is for each climax you hit, you get to look at up to 3 cards from the top of your deck and add one of them to your hand. It can be any type of card, and you don't have to show it to your opponent, so that's a perfect way to get the climaxes that you need.
Yeah. Just on that Elaine, I believe that effect is actually unique to English White Shorts.
I think that Brainstorm ability is unique to White Shores.
Yeah.
I took a look when the card first got revealed, and I don't believe there was any other card with that particular Brainstorm cost.
I don't think that's the only Brainstorm that has that cost, I believe, as well. So it's very interesting, and I do appreciate Bushiroad being a bit more experimental with these English original titles and their card pools.
Yeah. Some of the players that I've talked to have been pretty outspoken with saying that this might be like one of the best Brainstorms of all time, just based on the flexibility that it gives you versus normal game mechanics, and it really changes that dynamic. And as long as you have ways to circumvent the fact that you're sacrificing characters and not utilizing stock, you really have to change the way you think about the flow of the game and the way you value your resources. But if you're able to get into the right state of thinking, then and build your deck correctly, then it's very, very powerful. And we do see, even in Christian's deck, he himself is also running this Brainstorm. 3 copies. 3 copies of this Brainstorm are in his deck, which just is kind of a testament to how strong both of these players feel that this combo is. And, Christian hitting 2 off his Brainstorm. So considering that he clocked into 2, hit 2 off the Brainstorm, and
looks like his next turn may be non-existent.
Yeah, I believe he still has 1 climax at the top of his stock right now, which is that other stock soul. 5 in waiting room, a choice in hand. That means there's only 1 in deck. We might see him having to... Okay, so this puts him in a dilemma because...
that's the Brainstorm you were talking about.
Okay, actually, yeah. So he has 4 stock left. Under normal circumstances, I would say, okay, if you want to play 2 Escanors and Brainstorm, you can't because you would need 5 stock. But Elaine Brainstorm doesn't use stock, but chooses not to go for it. Maybe going to be using... Oh, he already has an Elaine.
That makes sense.
All right, perfect. Sacrifice the Elizabeth Brainstorm, as you don't want to have 3 rested characters on your board and have to play over one of them, so it makes perfect sense.
So it looks at top 3, and looks like he can go through this deck, so he doesn't have to end the turn on a really uncompressed deck. Bit unfortunate, it's on 3-2, and he can heal up to twice.
But it looks like it's going to be once.
Looks like it once. So with 1 heal and 1 refresh penalty, he's going to be passing on 3-2, which is a bit of a danger zone, but at the same time, I don't think Simu's deck has particularly strong finishing quantities.
Yeah. Especially considering that there's no actual finisher damage being dealt until the opponent's turn.
Yeah.
During which, they have the opportunity to heal down or prepare for the incoming burn twos. So a bit weaker in that aspect compared to your more conventional finishers.
Yeah. But, if you're on 3-5 and the opponent attacks with 3 times, it's still pretty scary, so it might just be enough.
So I think the idea of going all the way through the deck here for Christian is that he wants to go into the fresh deck. Going to use the Meliodas to grab the level 0 Elaine, probably use the Elaine to get rid of that last card of the deck, go into the new deck, and then play Gil Thunder to try to find 2 soul triggers for these Escanors. And this definitely looks like a it's time to go kind of situation. Make it or break it right now.
I don't feel like there was very much else of a choice there. If you don't go for game here, well, we don't have to necessarily go for game, but you have to put you'd have to put Simu in a position where you can push with whatever is left of you on the following turn if you're going to heal with Escanor, because you don't want to just push up your back row and chump 3 times and just cross your fingers either.
Especially considering that the back row is already rested, considering that 3 brainstorms have been used this turn.
Yeah. Alright, so that's a refresh again.
So I like the order that was used here. Instead of going for the top check add discard, Christian chose to go for the discard draw. And so doing this means that if a climax is revealed off the top, it is not forced to go into your hand because it will just remain on top. And then the Gil Thunder can be played, rearrange it so that it's further down in the deck so that the Escanor can trigger it later.
All right.
Whereas,
do we have information on whether or not Simu has the minus soul counter in his hand at the moment?
Haven't taken close enough look at his hand to see if he had it, but next time he shows his hand just a little bit, we might be able to see. Thankfully, because he is running the foil version, it is quite a bit easier to tell which card it is compared to if he was running the non-foil.
That's very nice. All right, so Christian unfortunately refreshed with the climax there, so his odds of surviving, should he not win this turn, I think went down just a little bit more.
Yeah, would have definitely liked that card to be just 1 card lower.
Yeah, it would have been nice. All right, top 3, and
I think I saw 1 climax.
Is that a climax? It's slightly hard to see.
Yeah, this one right here, I think I see the little bit of yellow right here.
Oh, yep.
Now the real question is it choice or is it stock soul? I think, based on the positioning, I think it is a stock soul.
Yeah, if it was a choice, you'd rather trigger it on the first one and just pay it out, hey? I also see a soul trigger somewhere on the 3rd card, I think, from
Yeah,
the top.
there was a 3-2 DN in there as well, the early play.
Pretty ideal top 3 check here. And yeah, Simu would probably have liked to get the 2-1 Elizabeth online a little bit earlier, but we'll see how this goes. But that being said, Christian did just refresh a climax, and then he's seen 1 in the top 3, which means that he's going to trigger it. Means that his odds of survival on the next turn are pretty low.
Well, they are a bit low, but also at this time, Simu's representing Vanilla Swings.
Yeah, that is also true. So
it's not completely out of the question to live next
Not
turn.
abysmal.
Unless Simu gets a choice. If Simu gets a choice,
that changes the question.
It's kind of yikes. Because
just the global 1K1 would make a big difference to start, wouldn't it?
It's not even just the global 1K1. You also have to consider this. If Simu lands a single 3, okay, first of all, Simu has 2 copies of the Meliodas in his hand.
Yeah.
1 from before, 1 that just got bounced.
Yeah.
So he plays 2, and then plays the climax if he gets it. All of those Meliodases are swinging for 3s. If any one of them sticks, that means that there are burn 2s incoming on Christian's next turn, and his healers are on the board.
And there's also 1 in the waiting room there, so it looks like healing is not going to be something that's happening in 2 turns. Anyhow, that's a front for 3, was it?
Yeah, it was a 3. The King Climax Swapper was the one that was put on top.
Yes.
And judging by the damage not happening yet, I can only assume that Simu is pondering on whether or not he wants to use that minus soul counter. So he must have it.
Well, maybe it's a bluff, who knows?
Must have at least 1.
Yeah.
There are 3 copies in this deck.
So it is quite likely he has 1 then.
Yeah, we've been thinking that 3 copies is probably the correct number.
Yeah, 4 does seem excessive. 2 maybe, but I think at 3 you probably see it better.
It's very reasonable to try to go for 2 copies within a single game.
Yeah.
But I think that if you were to run 4, you might be seeing it more than you want. And this deck is already filling up its hand full of not unplayable cards, but cards you don't want to be hard playing in the 2/2s.
The 2/2s, yeah.
That you're getting off the lane. So I don't think you want to have a handful of 2/2s and 2/1 counters. That's
completely understandable, yeah.
That's a little bit dodgy.
Yeah. So, thinking Sam's still going.
So this would be a swing for 1.
1 if he uses the counter, I believe, yeah. So, although Simu doesn't know this, Christian has a 2-soul and a 1-soul on the top of his deck. So he has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So
10
he
burn
has
ones?
10 senses of 1. And Simu is currently on 2 and 4 with a refresh incoming. I think the 2 on the bottom being left there is, I believe those 2 aren't climaxes, are there?
No.
Yeah.
These two are clean. There's 7 in the waiting room, and then the last standby is somewhere in the stock.
Yeah. So Simu has 3 more to level up, effectively 2 because of the refresh, and then 9 after that. So I think...
Oh, I think that was... Was that 2 counters?
Oh, was it?
If it's 2 counters, then you just shotgun.
I feel like using it here is pretty good, yeah. Or maybe it's the bluff that he's trying to make Christian think that he only has 1, and then he's gonna use it.
I mean, I don't think this bluff is really effective. Christian's never siding.
No, I don't think he's ever siding.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the second copy.
Okay, yes. And then, so discard 1 additional card, and then...
Oh, wait, that's for 2.
Oh, it was for...
Did we see the trigger wrong?
Perhaps?
2
No.
it is, I guess. Well, all right, so this 2 is landing, so with a refresh, it's 7. All right. Well, Simu's taking this 2. I assume it's 2. And then leveling up from the refresh penalties. So he has 7 cards. Sorry, 7 until he gets sent up to level 4. And then Escanor is doing 10, of which 2 is being reduced. So he actually only needs to cancel twice. With
That's not unreasonable.
6. Yeah, 2 times an 8 is... it's actually pretty likely.
Well, actually, if that was actually a 2,
yeah,
I apologize that I guess we weren't paying good enough attention to how the cards were reordered. But if this was a 2, then that means the Escanor one of the Escanors has to be triggering 0, right?
Yeah, that would be true. Hey,
so that means
he actually only needs to cancel
1.
Yeah.
1 cancel. So there's the refresh.
Yeah.
Going to level up, and then this Escanor is going to direct attack.
Yep.
So the Gil Thunder 10k Meliodas is like
11 at least. Yeah. Plus 2/5.
Oh, that was the king. Wait. How was that?
Wait.
Wait, how was that 2 damage then? Oh, you know what it is? Gil Thunder's other effect, right? It lets you, doesn't it let you pump soul?
I completely forgot it had another ability.
Yeah, so Gil Thunder's other effect is when he attacks, you can discard a card to gain 2k power and 1 soul.
Oh, okay. So I believe that's what happened, and that was game?
Oh, yeah, there it is.
All right.
Sam just did not get enough cancels. And that is going to be Christian Yarbacher taking our round 6. That was definitely a pretty interesting end game there.
Yeah, I think, as I brought up earlier, if Simu had gotten the 2-1 out just 1 turn earlier, yeah, it would have been very different. So, you know, they're kind of just both setting up towards, so it's a bit of a race, I guess. So Simu wants to set up earlier than Christian, and Christian wants to set up earlier than Simu and go for game. And yeah, Christian won out this one, but it could have really gone either way.
Yeah, I definitely think that what you said earlier about the 2-1 being potentially useful for avoiding bounce, definitely very valid.
Yeah.
Even though we were saying that, like, oh, maybe you don't need it as much because Escanor doesn't actually do any burn damage. But turns out +1 soul, also denying a counter, very powerful. I think that it was definitely a really good heads-up decision by Christian as well to go for the + soul on the level 3 Gil Thunder.
Yeah.
It definitely forces a pretty tricky situation for Simu. Obviously, that entire time we weren't exactly on top of what went on.
We were a bit lost. Sorry,
just
we forgot it had another line of text.
Yeah. Turns out +1 soul on him as well is pretty good.
Yeah.
Especially in situations like maybe you might even want to like side attack with that Gil Thunder. So like bounce one lane, side another. It lets you avoid interaction extremely well from things like rest counters and money counters. And yeah, we just kind of saw all the damage just went in at the end.
Yeah.
So Gil Thunder, funnily enough, I think the Gil Thunders that we've seen today were just all sticking, despite having a bunch of instances of one split.
Yes. I feel like that's been the majority of the games we've seen today. Maybe half.
Yeah, we have seen a couple games where people just kind of got exploded from low to mid 2.
Yeah.
And that is the nature of Weiss Schwarz.
Yeah.
I do feel that it is kind of what's the correct way to describe it? I feel like this is kind of the mentality of Western players, where it's like, if you don't want them to kill you from 3, don't let them play at 3, and then just kill them from 2.
Yeah. Well, we do say that you know, sometimes that happens in Weiss Schwarz, where you take just a lot of damage from the top and you can't do anything about it. But it is, if you think about it, a result of the player playing aggressively to like make that decision and get there.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, it's not like an entirely luck thing. You have to be ready to be lucky, if that makes any sense to you. You know, like you can't win by sticking 10 damage if you don't have 10 damage on the board.
It's like you miss 100% of the shots you don't take,
yeah,
right?
basically, right? So, yeah, like I feel, you know, if you don't put too much thought in it, it might just be like, oh, this guy lost because you just took 10 off the top. But with a bit more thought, like that is actually probably what happened in quite a few of the games today. So definitely, skill has been shown today, and I'm glad to be able to see a lot of that. Yeah,
I definitely think that, like, if you took a separate group of players, like you just took 2 completely different groups of players, one group would go for these aggressive lines like we saw with, like in Mark's game, the last round against Hololive. He went for the triple Marine, he found it, and he won the game off of it.
Yeah.
A completely separate group of players, not necessarily with Kanata Marine, of course, but like this could apply to many different decks. They would choose to heal, prioritize healing down, try to play for next turn, and then just like go from there.
Yeah.
And then sometimes that results in them just not having enough of an offensive push between the 2 turns to even get there, based on just like maybe the extra turn change the opponent's deck state in such a way that like they are now ready to cancel or something like that. And so it's really heads up, and it's really interesting to see the differences between certain playstyles. Obviously, I feel like personally, the more aggressive playstyle resonates with me personally more than the more conservative. But obviously, there are correct opportunities for both.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so I think that wraps up our Swiss rounds. So that was round 6. We've got top 8 coming in after a bit, but for now, we'll cut to a break, and we'll see you guys later.
Well, actually, I believe we do have a special announcement coming up soon. So that'll be in just a bit.
Yep, sir.
So we're going to be coming back to you guys real soon with that.
Yep.
And we're just going to be kind of chilling in the meantime. We'll probably come back to you guys right before the announcement starts, and, you know, kind of bring you guys back in before we get into these very interesting announcements. We don't actually know anything about them.
We don't have any information either.
So this is going to be a surprise to us as well. We're not entirely sure of the nature of the announcements or announcement. We don't actually know how many announcements. We don't know the length or the nature or whatnot. So, they just told us that we should come in when they're about ready to start it and sit tight. So hopefully you guys will be there with us for some exciting news, and we'll see you guys in just a bit.
All right, bye-bye.